Question 1. In the context of a complex multi-point lift, Mr. Delgado is tasked with lifting a 12-foot-long air handling unit using 2 rigging points spaced equally on either end of the unit. The unit weighs 3,600 pounds and the lift will involve a 45-degree sling angle from the horizontal. Mr. Delgado must determine the load on each sling to ensure he selects equipment with an adequate working load lid bubble. Which of the following is the most accurate method for calculating the actual tension each sling will experience? A. Divide the load equally between both slings without considering sling angle. B. Multiply half the load by the cosine of the sling angle to reduce tension. C. Use the formula load 2 cos 45 deg to calculate the load per sling. D. Use the formula total load number of slings to calculate tension directly. Answer. Correct answer. C. Use the formula load 2 cos 45 deg to calculate the load per sling. Explanation. At sling angles less than 9 deg, tension increases due to horizontal force components. For 45 deg angle, the formula is tension per sling equals load 2 cos th at 3,600, 2 equals 1,800, pounds cos 45 equals 1,800, 0.7,000, 17 equals 25, 45 pounds per sling. This value must be compared against the LL of the A slings. Ignoring sling angle, as in option or D, severely underestimate sling tension, violating SME B.9 and OSHA 1926.251. D. Option B applies cosine incorrectly, reducing rather than increasing tension. Question 2. Taking into account the division of responsibilities, Mr. Lin, a rigger on a construction site, notices the crane operator preparing to lift a roof-up HVAC unit without a final confirmation of the rigging setup. Mr. Lin knows the load has shifted slightly due to wind gusts. What is Mr. Lin's obligation in this situation? A. Immediately radio the crane operator to proceed with caution. B. Signal an emergency stop and reassess the rigging configuration. C. Notify the site supervisor after the lift is complete. D. Ignore it, as the crane operator has final say on all lifting decisions. Answer. Correct answer. B. Signal an emergency stop and reassess the rigging configuration. Explanation. Riggers are responsible for ensuring the load is safe to lift. OSHA 1926.753 D1 Omen Thuren Ansias B.5 grant riggers authority to stop unsafe operations. An unexpected load shift compromises center of gravity and balance, risking a catastrophic lift failure. Option A is insufficient. Emergency stop is required. Option C delays corrective action and option D is incorrect. Riggers and operators share responsibilities and must communicate safety issues proactively. Question 3. Among the various sling materials available, which of the following sling types is best suited for lifting delicate HVAC coils in a tight mechanical room environment where metal contact could damage the unit's casing? A. Wire rope sling. B. Chain sling. C. Synthetic web sling. D. Metal mesh sling. Answer. Correct answer. C. Synthetic web sling. Explanation. Synthetic web slings, governed under SMEPA B.9 and OSHA 1926.251a, are ideal for delicate, finished surfaces because they're soft, flexible, and distribute pressure over wider area. Wire rope and chain slings can cut or dent the surface. Metal mesh is also abrasive and typically used for high temperature or sharp edge loads. Synthetic slings bend easily in tight spaces, key advantage in mechanical rooms. Question 4. When considering a lift involving multiple shackles and wire rope assemblies, is Jefferson inspects a shackle with a manufacturer's tag marked Loloitense and notices that the pin appears slightly bent. What is the appropriate next step? A. Proceed with the lift since RBA rating is visible and sufficient. B. Use the shackle only if no replacement is available. C. Tag the shackle as out of service and remove it from use. D. Use the shackle if it passes quick visual inspection by the supervisor. Answer. Correct answer. C. Tag the shackle as out of service and remove it from use. Explanation. A bent pin is a clear sign of deformation, rendering the shackle unsafe, according to ASME.26 and OSHA 1926.251.8.1. Any rigging hardware showing deformation must be removed immediately, even if FOL is illegible. Structural integrity is compromised. Options A, B, and D violate best practices and legal safety standards. Question 5. Is illustrated by a rigging operation near an operating chiller unit. The signal person assigned to direct the crane operator is positioned with a clear line of sight. However, a second rigger begins giving contradictory hand signals. What is the correct protocol for the crane operator in this situation? A. Follow the signal from the rigger who is closer to the load. B. Stop all motion immediately until clarification is provided. C. Continue following the original signal person's instructions. D. Decide based on personal judgment who to follow. Answer. Correct answer. B. Stop all motion immediately until clarification is provided. Explanation. OSHA 1926.1419C mandates that a crane operator must obey a stop signal at any time from anyone. In cases of conflicting signals, the operator must halt the operation until the source of confusion is resolved. Following either person without clarity violates communication protocols. Standard requires only one designated signal person. Any deviation leads to miscommunication and potential accidents. Question 6. During the process of lifting a horizontally oriented air handler, Mr. Patel places the rigging symmetrically along its length. Once airborne, the unit begins to tilt toward one end. Which principle of rigging did Mr. Patel fail to account for? A. Sling angle effect. B. Mechanical advantage. C. True center of gravity location. D. Vertical height clearance. Answer. Correct answer. C. True center of gravity location. Explanation. Even symmetrical-looking equipment can have uneven internal weight distributions. OSHA 1926 subpart H and ASME.9 emphasize that identifying the center of gravity (CG) is critical to lifting stability. Misjudging the CG leads to tilting, load shift, or even loss of control. This is not related to sling angle, mechanical advantage, or clearance. Tools like CG charts or test lifts help assess true CG before full lifting. Question 7. In the context of rooftop HVAC unit installation, Mr. Bernard must lift a packaged unit with protruding control panels and a large offset compressor. The unit lacks symmetrical lifting lugs and must be maneuvered onto vibration isolators. What is the most suitable rigging approach for this scenario? A. Use a choker hitch around the compressor for support. B. Rig from the corner framework using wire rope directly. C. Employ a spreader bar to equalize forces and protect protrusions. D. Lift from the center using a single top hook for balance. Answer. Correct answer. C. Employ a spreader bar to equalize forces and protect protrusions. Explanation. Spreader bars distribute load evenly across multiple points and prevent sling compression against delicate parts. SBP.1 and SMACA HVACR rigging guidance recommends spreader beams when dealing with fragile or offset components. Choker hitches, option A, may damage the unit. Corner-only lifts, B, create stress points. Single point lifting, D, is unsafe for asymmetrical or unbalanced loads. Question 8. During a site inspection, a technician notices that the HVAC rigging area passes under an overhead power line, and part of the crane boom will swing within 12 feet of the line. What action is required before continuing the lift? A. Proceed carefully using spotters to avoid contact. B. Notify the utility company and maintain a 10-foot minimum clearance. C. Halt the lift and move the crane farther away without informing anyone. D. Only lift during low demand electrical periods to reduce arc risk. Answer. Correct answer. B. Notify the utility company and maintain a 10-foot minimum clearance. Explanation. OSHA 1926.1408 requires a minimum 10-foot clearance from energized power lines up to 50. Additionally, employers must notify the utility to de-energize or insulate lines when working close. Option is insufficient without utility contact. Option C violates the communication requirement, and D is not a recognized safety measure. Question 9. When evaluating the merits of emergency preparedness, which of the following situations requires the rigger or signal person to immediately issue an emergency stop signal. The load shifts slightly but remains stable. B. A bystander enters the controlled lift zone. C. The load exceeds 75% of the sling and boulier. D. The weather changes from sunny to overcast. Answer. Correct answer. B. A bystander enters the controlled lift zone. Explanation. Per OSHA 1926.1419. B. And answer B.5. Any unauthorized personnel in the danger zone during a lift must result in immediate cessation. This prevents injury from unexpected load movement or failure. Slight shifts they may be monitored. A load exceeding 75 per bl. C is a planning concern, not me. Overcast weather. D is not hazardous by itself. Question 10. Through careful analysis of the project drawings, Thompson is preparing a lift plan for a tight alleyway install of a large rooftop condenser unit. The area has uneven pavement, limited swing radius, and multiple subcontractors on site. What is the most essential steps you must take to ensure the lift plan is comprehensive and safe? A. Select the largest crane available to minimize swing radius concerns. B. Avoid scheduling lifts during peak activity hours. C. Conduct a pre-lift meeting with all affected trades and document hazards. D. Reduce lifting height to save time and fuel costs. Answer. Correct answer. C. Conduct a pre-lift meeting with all affected trades and document hazards. Explanation. SMP.1 and OSHA 1926.753 require that a lift plan identifies site constraints, communication, traffic control, and potential hazards. A pre-lift meeting ensures all stakeholders understand their roles, mitigating accidents. Crane size 8 may worsen mobility. Avoiding peak hours helps but is not sufficient. Fuel efficiency D is irrelevant to safety planning. Question 11. During the lift of a 750 lb rooftop economizer, Vasquez attaches a tag line to the unit. As the load is raised, a gust of wind begins to swing it toward a scaffold structure. What is the most appropriate action? A. Increase the crane boom angle to speed up the lift and minimize swing. B. Pull harder on the tag line to control the swing. C. Stop the lift and stabilize the load using wind-rated rigging or reschedule. D. Add a second tag line mid-lift for better directional control. Answer. Correct answer. C. Stop the lift and stabilize the load using wind-rated rigging or reschedule. Explanation. OSHA 1926.1417 and SMP.1 require operations to halt during unsafe wind conditions. Taglines help control, but excessive wind can make a lift unpredictable. Option C ensures safety and regulatory compliance. Options and D add unnecessary risk. Pulling harder. B could cause pendulum effects or injury. Question 12. During a rigging inspection, Harper finds a grade 80 alloy steel chain sling with a twisted link and some discoloration from past welding sparks. What is the correct course of action? A. Use the sling only if it's lifting under 50% of its rotor. B. Clean it and twist the sling and recertify it in-house. C. Remove the sling from service and tag it for inspection. D. Ask the crane operator to inspect it visually before use. Answer. Correct answer. C. Remove the sling from service and tag it for inspection. Explanation. According to OSHA 1926.251b and SMP.9, any deformation, heat damage, where it requires immediate removal from service, chain slings damaged by heat or twisting are no longer reliable. Only qualified personnel or manufacturers can recertify, not in-house crews. Using damaged slings at partial capacity A is strictly prohibited. Question 13. Which of the following conditions must be met for a person to act as a qualified signal person on a construction site using mobile cranes? A. Completion of OSHA 30 training. B. Holding a journeyman rigger card. C. Evaluation by a qualified evaluator or third-party certifier. D. Passing a company-specific written test. Answer. Correct answer. C. Evaluation by a qualified evaluator or third-party certifier. Explanation. Per OSHA 1926.1428, signal persons must be qualified through a documented evaluation by a qualified evaluator or certified via A third party. OSHA 30 training A is helpful but not sufficient. Journeyman cards. B may not align with signal person competencies. Company tests. D don't meet OSHA's documentation requirement unless performed by qualified evaluator. Question 14. Mr. Cohen uses a basket hitch with synthetic web slings to lift a square HVAC cabinet. He places both eyes over the crane hook without a spreader bar. During the lift, the cabinet bows inward slightly. What rigging out likely caused this issue? A. Improper hook size. B. Load too light for sling capacity. C. Uneven sling length. D. Compressive force on the load without a spreader bar. Answer. Correct answer. D. Compressive force on the load without a spreader bar. Explanation. A basket hitch without a spreader bar can create inward compressive force on square or flat-sided objects. This deformation is common with HVAC cabinets. Option A, B, and C do not explain structural deformation. Number B.9 emphasizes using spreader bars for such scenarios. Question 15. While preparing to lift a 1200 lb rooftop air handler, the signal person realizes the load will pass over an occupied scissor lift. What is the most compliant action? A. Proceed with the lift while warning personnel below. B. Reroute the load path to avoid suspended loads over people. C. Ask the scissor lift operator to duck inside their basket. D. Lift slowly and maintain extra height for safety. Answer. Correct answer. B. Reroute the load path to avoid suspended loads over people. Explanation. OSHA 1926.753 D1 Ohm strictly prohibits loads being lifted over personnel. A suspended load presents extreme danger and all personnel must be clear of the fall zone. None of the other options satisfy this requirement. Verbal warnings A or asking someone to duck C are not sufficient. Question 16. Which of the following best describes when a critical lift plan must be developed in HVAC rigging operations? A. When lifting a load with a live crane boom. B. When lifting more than 80% of the crane's rated capacity. C. Anytime rigging occurs above second-story elevation. D. When load must be held aloft for more than 30 minutes. Answer. Correct answer. B. When lifting more than 80% of the crane's rated capacity. Explanation. OSHA and most contractor safety programs define critical lift as one involving 75-85% of capacity tandem lifts over occupied structures. These require detailed plans per SMP.1. Options A, C, and D may trigger hazard analysis but don't define critical lifts. Question 17. During an inspection of a 6-wire rope sling is to tally count 7 broken wires within a 6-foot section all in one lay length. The core is slightly exposed. What is the required action? A. Lubricate and rotate the sling for balanced wear. B. Continue use but limit to 50% capacity. C. Remove the sling from service immediately. D. Conduct a magnetic rope test before final judgment. Answer. Correct answer. C. Remove the sling from service immediately. Explanation. OSHA 1926.1413 and SB.9 dictate removal of a wire rope sling if there are 6 or more broken wires in one lay length, or if the core is exposed. Rotation, lubrication, or testing do not override mandatory removal conditions. Question 18. What is the most significant hazard introduced when sling angles are reduced below 45° from the horizontal during lift? A. Increased sling length. B. Load shifting toward the hook. C. Dramatic increase in sling tension. D. Decreased load visibility. Answer. Correct answer. C. Dramatic increase in sling tension. Explanation. Low sling angles increase tension exponentially. At 30° tension can reach double the actual load per leg. This is covered under SB.9 and lifting triangle diagrams. Increased tension can lead to equipment failure. Below is not recalculated. Question 19. An HVAC lift requires placing a rooftop chiller unit behind a parapet wall with no line of sight between the crane operator and the signal person. What is the most compliant signaling solution? A. Use a second signaler to relay hand signals. B. Use radios with two-way communication between the operator and the primary signaler. C. Use flags instead of hand signals for better visibility. D. Position the crane operator on the roof for direct sight. Answer. Correct answer. B. Use radios with two-way communication between the operator and the primary signaller. Explanation. OSHA 1926.1419 B allows voice signals, radios, when hand signals aren't feasible. They must be two-way, continuous, and understood by both parties. Relayed signalers A are not recommended due to delay or error. Positioning the operator D is unrealistic. Flags C aren't without set. Question 20. When lifting a packaged rooftop unit that contains both refrigerant and oil, what additional precaution must be taken before lifting and installing the unit? A. Drain the refrigerant and oil before the lift. B. Ensure all panels are removed to reduce weight. C. Verify shipping brackets are secured and unit is level. D. Pressurize the refrigerant lines to stabilize internal pressure. Answer. Correct answer. C. Verify shipping brackets are secured and unit is level. Explanation. Packaged units often ship with internal components suspended or braced. Per SMACNA rigging standards, shipping brackets and leveling must be verified to prevent internal damage. You do not remove refrigerant or oil unless required for servicing. They're sealed systems. Question 21. During the planning phase, Mr. Langston is tasked with lifting a commercial HVAC chiller that includes a steel support frame, condenser coils, and a water pump attached. The manufacturer's documentation lists the dry weight as 2,400 pounds, but doesn't account for the added steel frame and water pump. What should Mr. Langston do to determine the actual load weight before selecting rigging gear? A. Estimate the additional weight and add 10% as safety margin. B. Weigh each component separately and add to the dry weight. C. Assume the listed weight is accurate unless modifications are noted. D. Use the crane's load indicator to determine weight during the lift. Answer. Correct answer. B. Weigh each component separately and add to the dry weight. Explanation. Per SMUP.1 and OSHA 1926.251.8.1, load weight must be accurately calculated before lifting. Additional attachments like frames and pumps must be added to the total. Estimating they assuming C or relying on the crane. D. Violates planning best practices and introduces serious risk. Question 22. Is Donnelly lifting a fiberglass cooling tower using slings? Because the surface is smooth and easily crushed, she opts for a synthetic web sling and basket hitch. What is the greatest risk in this configuration? A. Load will bounce due to web sling elasticity. B. Sling may absorb water and stretch unevenly. C. Sling pressure could crush or deform the load. D. Webbing will melt in sunlight exposure. Answer. Correct answer. C. Sling pressure could crush or deform the load. Explanation. Synthetic web slings, while great for delicate surfaces, can apply crushing force in basket hitches without spreader bars or padding. OSHA 1926.251 and SME.9 recommend protecting fragile loads from sling compression. Options A, B, and D are minor concerns compared to load deformation. Question 23. During a coordinated HVAC lift at a large commercial site, Mr. Patel, the rigger, notices that multiple subcontractors are working in the swing path of the crane despite clear barricades. What is the most appropriate action Mr. Patel should take? A. Request the crane operator to proceed with caution. B. Use warning horns and continue with spotters. C. Stop the lift and alert site supervision. D. Proceed since subcontractors are not part of the lift team. Answer. Correct answer. C. Stop the lift and alert site supervision. Explanation. OSHA 1926.753 and SMEP.1 require all personnel to be clear of the load path before lifting. Even non-lift personnel must be protected. The rigger has full authority to halt operations in unsafe conditions. Continuing with spotters. B. Or assuming others are not at risk. D. Violate safety standards. Question 24. When lifting a cylindrical duct section using rope slings, Mr. Romano uses two bowline knots and a choker hitch configuration. Midway through the lift, one end of the rope begins to slip. What likely caused this issue? A. Choker hitch should never be used with rope. B. Bowline knots are not suitable for tension loads. C. The choker hitch is not self-tightening like a basket hitch. D. The choker hitch was applied incorrectly or without tension. Answer. Correct answer D. The choker hitch was applied incorrectly or without tension. Explanation. Choker hitches are effective only when properly tensioned and snug. If not set properly, especially with rope, they can slip. Bowlines. B. Are stable for fixed loops. The issue here is improper application, not the hitch type itself. ASM 3.9 and rigging guides stress proper choker alignment and load engagement. Question 25. What best describes the rigger's responsibility during an HVACR lift involving a rooftop air handler installation? A. Operating the crane to ensure precise movement. B. Directing pedestrian traffic during lifting operations. C. Selecting proper rigging equipment and inspecting gear. D. Approving the engineering drawings before final lift. Answer. Correct answer. C. Selecting proper rigging equipment and inspecting gear. Explanation. Per OSHA 1926 subpart CC and ASME B standards, riggers are responsible for selecting, inspecting, and configuring rigging equipment. Crane operation. A is the operator's role. Engineering plan approval. D lies with supervisors or engineers. Pedestrian control. B may be shared but isn't core to rigging duties. Question 26. During a rooftop lift of a rooftop ULTU ISTA-NUN, the signal person sees the load tipping slightly. He immediately gives the emergency stop signal, but the crane continues moving. What is the correct protocol if an emergency signal is not obeyed? A. Repeat the signal loudly and add verbal warnings. B. Remove yourself from the site until a report is filed. C. Notify the supervisor and stop the lift immediately. D. Wait until the operator finishes the lift before intervening. Answer. Correct answer. C. Notify a supervisor and stop the lift immediately. Explanation. Emergency signals must be obeyed immediately. OSHA 1926.1419F. Failure to comply is a critical safety violation. Option C ensures the lift stops and the issue is investigated. Waiting, D, or verbal escalation A without supervisor involvement is inadequate. Question 27. An HVAC crew is tasked with installing a rooftop chiller on a windy winter day with snow accumulation. Mr. Edwards is concerned about rooftop slip hazards and wind gusts up to 30 miles per hour. What is the correct action to ensure a safe lift? A. Proceed cautiously with additional taglines. B. Delay the lift and reassess when weather improves. C. Remove snow and install temporary heaters. D. Wear ice cleats and safety harnesses for better grip. Answer. Correct answer. B. Delay the lift and reassess when weather improves. Explanation. OSHA 1926.1417 and prohibits lifting operations during unsafe weather conditions including high winds, slippery surfaces, or poor visibility. Taglines A and safety gear. D. Do not eliminate the weather hazard. Postponing the lift ensures safety and regulatory compliance. Question 20. Which of the following statements best describes the standard hand signal for lower the load slowly in crane operation? A. Arm extended downward, palm open, moving arm up and down. B. Arm at shoulder height, palm facing operator, waving side to side. C. Arm extended down, index finger pointing down, making small circular motion. D. One fist closed with thumb pointing downward and motioning slowly. Answer. Correct answer D. One fist closed with thumb pointing downward and motioning slowly. Explanation. Per OSHA 1926 subpart CC Appendix A, the signal for lower slowly is a thumb down with slow movement. Each movement has a standardized meaning. Improper signals can lead to dangerous miscommunication. Question 29. When lifting a factory-assembled air handling unit, AHU Mr. Sullivan notices that the lifting lugs are off-center due to internal component distribution. What must he do to ensure a stable lift? A. Attach slings equally to the unit corners and adjust mid-lift. B. Rig through the structural frame instead of lifting lugs. C. Use a spreader beam and calculate the center of gravity. D. Shift the crane position to counterbalance the load. Answer. Correct answer. C. Use a spreader beam and calculate the center of gravity. Explanation. Loads with uneven cog must be stabilized before the lift. Spreader beams allow slings to be adjusted based on actual balance points. ASME P.1 and rigging best practices emphasize load stability and cog analysis. Question 30. Before lifting a rooftop condensing unit, is Yamada inspects the wire rope sling and notices light surface rust, no broken wires, and slightly crushed rope strands. What should she do? A. Use it and monitor for further wear. B. Remove it from service and tag it for evaluation. C. Clean the rust and proceed with the lift. D. Cut the damaged section and re-terminate the rope. Answer. Correct answer. B. Remove it from service and tag it for evaluation. Explanation. Crushed strands compromise wire rope integrity. Even without broken wires, deformation is a rejection criterion under OSHA 1926.1413 and SB.9. Repairing in the field, D, is prohibited unless done by a qualified party. Rust may be cosmetic, but deformation is not.